So I'm in a Mazda MX5. This is the 4th generation model, also known as the ND, November Delta. It was released in 2015 in the UK, I believe, although it was unveiled in 2014. I remember watching a video of it on YouTube, of the unveiling with Henry Catchpole. I was quite excited actually. I thought it looked rather fetching. So it's been out for 5 years now, and they've made some tweaks in 2018, September 2018, but this is a bit more of a special model because it's 100 years anniversary model, celebrating 100 years of Mazda between 1920 and 2020. And for that, what you get is little reminders that it's something special, an embossed logo in the head restraint. It gets a logo on the center cap for the alloy wheels and a little strip on the side just in front of the rear wheel reminding you that it was the 100th anniversary edition. But it also gets a very nice colour scheme. It's this white with red. It's not available in the UK unless you buy this anniversary edition, but also the interior has red seats, like a burgundy colour, with the same burgundy coloured carpet, which I think goes really well, as the dash is still black leather with silver stitching, and the black and the white contrasting on the doors I think looks rather good. However, that is an opinion. The Mazda MX-5 comes with both a 1.5 or a 2-litre inline 4 engine. You can get it with a 6-speed manual, which most are because it's great, or you can get it with an automatic if you must. This is the 2-litre model. The 100-year anniversary only comes in 2-litre guise with 184 PS, which is about 181, or exactly 181 horsepower at 7,000 RPM. And it revs to 7,500 RPM, which is lovely, and 151 pounds-foot of torque at around 4,000 RPM. The 1.5 litre engine has 16-inch alloy wheels, and the 2 litre comes with 17-inch alloy wheels, and it's only the 2 litre that gets the limited slip differential. Also, the 2 litre comes with firmer suspension, firmer Bilstein coilovers, which aren't too firm. The 1.5, the suspension on that is actually really quite supple, really quite nice. A lot of body roll, but you don't really notice it when you're driving. I think they've done that quite well. This one's a bit more composed at speed and a bit more controlled without being too harsh. It's definitely harsher, but it's at that point where it's controllable but not uncomfortable. It rounds off the bumps. Yes, you do notice bumps. I am driving on this road noticing the ruts and if I go into a pothole, yes, I'm going to notice it. But it kind of rounds them off a little bit. It's not crashy. So they've really damped it very well. Has rose jointed rear suspension, so spherical bearings. Don't know what that means. Just means that it doesn't have rubber bushes in the rear suspension, which means normally you're going to get a lot more vibration through the car, but you don't with this. Normally that suspension's reserved for racing cars. I know the Lamborghini Countach had it, and I believe the Porsche Carrera GT had it as well. So it gives you an idea of how serious that kind of suspension is, especially for a road car. You rarely hear road cars having spherical bearings instead of bushes. Before I talk about what this car is like to drive, I want to talk about some of its features because there is a lot of them. All bar the base spec SEL model, get all you really need. This is a top spec model. Being a special edition, it has pretty much everything. It has Bose sound system with 8 speakers and 1 subwoofer. 2 speakers are in the headrest, which are really good. With the roof down, the music, very good. If you're listening to talk radio, very easy to hear what people are saying. If you're talking to someone on the phone with the hands-free kit, again, very easy to hear what people are saying, even with the roof down. And when you turn the music up, the subwoofer, oh yeah, it's loud. It will knock you off your stool. It has cruise control, which is very easy to use. Android Auto since 2019, or very beginning of 2020, I believe, in the top spec models. Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which really is very handy. You can plug your phone in, use Google Maps, use whatever you're used to using, like Spotify, to get all your media there. Automatic climate control, very simple, very easy to use, and it does work. The heated seats in this are like a furnace. They do take 5 minutes to get to their hottest temperature, but you feel like you're sitting on a radiator when they are at the hottest temperature. To operate your media, you do have a touchscreen, but it doesn't work when you're moving. When you're not moving, you can only use these two knobs down here and the buttons. But to be fair, I never use the touchscreen because these knobs and these buttons work so well. They're a much better solution to the touchscreen. Now, a little bit far back, so you have to like claw your hand a little bit back like this to get at them because there's not a lot of room in this car. Space is at a premium, but they do work really well. There isn't much in the way of storage in this car. You do get this glove box behind you. You don't get a glove box at the front where it normally is. You can certainly fit some gloves in there. You can probably fit a couple of books, that sort of size. And you get this little thing here where you can put your sunglasses and maybe a couple of cables if you want to charge your phone. But there's no side door bins. However, there are two small little cubbies behind each seat. But of course, you can't access them without getting out the car and moving the seat all the way forward. It's a similar size to the central glove box cubby. You get keyless entry and keyless start, automatic wipers and automatic lights. And what I really like about the lights is the high beam, automatic high beam assistance. And the way it works is you basically leave on high beam all the time. And when it sees someone coming, it will dip the lights for you. It won't give you full beam when you're below 20 miles an hour though, not that you really need it when you're that slow. But what I really like about it is that when it dips the lights when there's an oncoming car, especially on the motorway at speed, it does actually keep your lights raised quite a bit more than usual. It actually just dims the side of the road where the oncoming cars are. So you still get to see quite far without blinding other people. And I've done a lot of driving in this car in a very short period of time. And a lot of it was when it was dark and when it was raining. I did 1,650 miles, which I believe is somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 kilometers over the course of about 5 days. And those lights made life a lot easier. I do miss them now when I'm in a car without them. Something else that makes driving at night a little bit easier is this automatic dimming rear view mirror. And what makes parking easier is the reversing camera. Doesn't look so good on the outside of the car because I've kind of just sort of like cut a hole in the bumper and placed it there. But it does work very well, and it does alert you if someone's coming from either side. So if you're parked forwards in a parking space in a supermarket and you try to reverse out, you can't actually see to the sides in this car because of the soft top. There's no quarter light windows, and the reversing camera is actually really wide angle, so it gives you quite a good wide view of what's coming either side, and it will alert you if it thinks you haven't seen anything coming from the side by beeping at you. That does get a little bit annoying if you're waiting to reverse and there's quite a few cars coming, so it keeps beeping. But I can see that being a bit of a lifesaver because there are times when I need to reverse out of a space and I just can't see a thing. Something that's very important are the seats. The seats are comfortable even for relatively long journeys, but if you're going to drive this thing for 8 hours straight, which I've done, you are wishing for a bit more lumbar support because as like a hammock style seat, there's no actual padding here. It's literally connected, this bit of leather is connected to the top and the bottom, and it kind of, well, you lean into it like a hammock so that your back is kind of bent like this, which over a long period of time can give you a little bit of backache, but for journeys under 2 hours it's absolutely fine. If you're over 6 foot, you're not going to be that comfortable in here, I don't think. You probably could get away with it, but it's not ideal. I'm 5'10" and I fit perfectly. It's almost designed for me. I don't have to have the seat all the way back at 5'10". And I've got a little bit of headspace here as well. And I've even tried it with a helmet, just in case I'm going to take it on a track day. And even with a helmet, I do just fit. So if you're over 5'10", you're not getting in this with a helmet on, because my helmet is actually touching the top and it's touching the side here when I'm sitting in. You can't lower the seat or raise it. You can only go forwards and backwards, and you can tilt the backrest. You have a little wheel which can sort of tilt the front of the seat up and down to give you some under thigh support. I don't really see the point of that. It doesn't seem to make any difference to me. It just makes it, well, I can't really tell any difference. Maybe slightly less comfortable when it's up because it's putting pressure on underneath your legs, and I don't really like that. I will get to driving soon, I promise. I want to talk about the boot though. I know it's an MX5 and you don't buy it for the boot, but it really does help when they've designed the boot perfectly to fit 2 of those suitcases that you can take on an aeroplane, those sort of maximum 10 kilo, specifically sized to fit on Ryanair or EasyJet. 2 of them go in there and you still have room for some coats and a couple of shopping bags either side of them. And that made my long trip in this to Scotland a lot easier because I could take a lot of luggage without having to unload a suit. You know, it was just suitcase in there. Brilliant, really well thought out. And the engine, I'm going to start talking more about performance now. The engine is front mid mounted, so it's in line, all of the mass of the engine is in line with or behind the front wheels, which is important, or the front struts of the suspension. So therefore, most of the weight is in the middle of the car. You can get a rear mid-engined car, or you can get a front mid-engined car. If it's mid-engined, it's going to handle well. And as you sit so far back in the car, and you basically sit very near the rear wheels, the pivot point of the car is slightly in front of you, which gives you a very nice feeling when you turn, because when you turn, the front of the car sort of just does that around you, and you're sitting here and you don't twist as much, but it just makes the car feel very agile. I find that's how roadsters generally are. If you drive like a BMW Z4 where you have a similar seating position, you get that similar feeling where you turn the wheel and the whole car in front of you just goes round the bend. It's quite a nice feeling. Normally when you're in a car and you steer, say in a hatchback, when you steer, you're nearer the front, so you do a lot of the twisting. You're on that point where that happens, instead of being back here where the front really tips into a bend. I also like that the idle speed increases when you put it in reverse, meaning you can reverse easily without having to use the gas, just lift the clutch. It has fan washer jets, which are brilliant, and all cars should have these, and movable cup holders, although when you move the cup holder to the front passenger area, they're not going to have anywhere for their right leg. Roof off now, and time to start talking about the driving. You can take the roof off very easily when you're in the car and put it up when you're in the car, but it's not recommended in the owner's manual because you're supposed to push the glass down as you put the roof back, so you don't put so many creases in the canvas, or it's not canvas, the fabric of the roof. What's it like to drive then? Well, this gear change is a delight. It's a little bit notchy when cold, but it does get much slicker as the engine warms up and the gearbox oil gets warmer. What I would say about the gears is that it's like you're in a half gear all the time. So if you're in gear 1, it actually feels like you're more in gear 0.5. Gear 2 is like 1.5, gear 3 is like 2.5. So if you're used to rev matching and you get in this car, you're going to be all out of sync because you have to give quite a lot more revs to get the rev match right. I did it right that time, but I've got a lot wrong. I'm starting to get used to it. Right, so coming up to a national speed limit now. I'm doing 30. Rev match into second. Oh, yeah, it goes. And 7,500 RPM, that's 60 miles an hour. So it does just do 60 miles an hour in second gear. I love the heater and heated seats in this car because even when it's been 6 degrees outside, I've had the roof off and I've been comfortable because the heater is like an absolute furnace. I've never been in a car with a heater that blows hot air like this one. It actually started to hurt my hands, it was so hot from the vents, and these vents are perfectly placed to keep your hands warm. I'm just pulling out of this junction here into a national speed limit, and I'm going to floor it in first and second. Let's see what it's like. Just wait for this van to go past. It'll be a rolling start. I don't want to ruin the clutch and I don't want to drift out of here because if I put my foot down in first gear, it will go sideways. We'll do it now. So just get it around this bend, get it rolling. What am I doing now? I'm doing 10 miles an hour, floor it. Yep. Woo! And there's 60. It's fast enough. It's plenty fast enough for a sports car. It's not going to knock your socks off. It's not going to be a party trick with acceleration, but it is all the performance you need on the road and then some. And with this lovely driving position, this beautiful steering, you will need a hairdresser because it's windy when you got the roof down. I know I'm changing the subject there, I was just thinking about that. Notice my hair's been blown back quite a bit. It's not a hairdresser's car, but you will need a hairdresser. Alright, hairdressers may drive them, but if they do, well, they like cars and they know what they're talking about. But that is what a roadster's all about. It's about winding your hair, fun, and this just makes it easy. It's the easiest roadster I've ever driven, and it's so easy to handle as well. It's playful, but it doesn't scare you. It will start to lose traction, but it doesn't do it suddenly. It doesn't do it in a way where you've got to have Superman reactions to control it. Heel and toe is sublime. Pedals are placed perfectly for it. It's not so easy when you're trying to heel and toe at low speeds, but then you don't really need to at low speeds. And I find that's probably more down to me, that I'm not used to the gear ratios being so different to what I'm used to. But I find whenever I'm trying to heel and toe at lower speeds, I'm always giving too few revs, but at high speed, I get it bang on pretty much every time. And this is a normally aspirated engine, so you're going to get a lot of, well, it's not got much torque, but it's got enough torque for the weight. You do need to use the gears. Who needs torque when you've got such a good gearbox? If you need to go quicker, you need to go down a few gears, give it some revs, and get the thing going. When you're driving about like I am now in a 30 zone, taking it easy, it really wants you to be in high gears. At the moment I'm in 6th gear, and it wants that. If I go down to 5th, it'll be saying go up to 6th, and it handles it okay actually. I'm only doing actually just over 1,000 RPM, yet the pedal still feels responsive. Not in an electric responsive way, but it's usable. I can speed up, I can slow down a little bit, and the economy is great. Generally speaking, driving around like I am now, a little bit of country road, a little bit of 30, I've been getting about 40 to the gallon. And when I've been on the motorway, I've been getting 50 to the gallon. I have noticed that using higher octane fuel seems to do it a little bit of good actually. I tend to get a little bit more MPG when I'm using the higher octane fuel than the lower octane fuel. And I don't normally tell a difference in cars. This one, it does seem like a difference. It could just be in my head. And as I say, I've only done nearly 1,800 miles in it so far. So it could just have been the journey I was on or the conditions. But so far, that's what I've experienced. Now I'm going to try and give you some experience using the head cam, so you can see what it's like from the driver's perspective on one of my favourite roads in the area. Hopefully we've got a clear stretch here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slow down and then I'll floor it from 1st gear. When I've got a nice little stretch, I believe just around this bend, and there's a nice little straight. Okay, here we go. So, down into 1st gear, get it down to, I don't know, 10, 15 miles an hour in 1st gear, about there, and no one coming, let's go. Oh, it's a little bit slidey. There we go. Don't want to drive too mad, want to be safe, but whilst being safe, it is very fun. Like, this road does feel a little bit slippy, so I am going to take it easy. When I was accelerating there in 1st, the back end did just start to move a tiny bit. Rev matching, that sound, it makes actually quite a nice sound. It's quite a nice raspy sound. And something I love about this 2 litre is that from idle right the way up to 7,500 RPM, it pulls in a linear manner. There's no flat spots, there's no horrible buzzes. The engine's just great right the way from tick over to 7,500 RPM. And at 7,500, it goes into a soft limiter, so it doesn't cut the power suddenly, it just stops you going further. Something that's annoying about this car is it has this system where you go over a white line on a road and it beeps at you. And in the UK, the roads are quite narrow and you go over white lines quite a bit, unless you want to be in the hedge all the time. But you can turn it off, and it does stay off when you turn the engine on again, which is great. You don't have to keep turning it off every single time. I'm trying to think about what I don't like about this car, and I am struggling. I'm sure there was something that annoyed me. There was that lane assist thing, but you can turn it off, so I can't really hold that against it. It's a lot of fun. You really don't need 400 horsepower to have fun on the road. You need somewhere between 150 and 200. And to be honest, most of the time I'm changing up at 5 because it's a bit fast if I go further than that. I only need between 3,000 and 5,000 RPM most of the time for most roads. And you can have your cake and eat it. You can enjoy yourself, but you're still legal. You're in the law. You're not actually doing anything wrong. Whereas there's been many cars I've driven where they don't really give you much fun at normal road speeds. So for you to get the most of them, oh yeah, rev matching in this is a delight. Well, for you to get most of these very powerful, very fast cars, you kind of got to take them above 80. That's where they shine. You can't really go above 80 on the road. So it's a frustrating exercise. Oh yeah. Okay, that wasn't the best rev match, but woohoo! This is why I love driving. This is why I preferred driving when I was younger to now. Because when I was younger, I had slow cars that weren't that fast, and you could drive the pants off them. And you weren't in a risk of hurting anyone or losing your license. Okay, you could be an idiot. Yeah, anyone can drive like an idiot and be risky, but you could work the engine, you could work the gears. And it's a real enjoyment to getting that right. And I'll take anything back about what I said about rev matching in this car. I'm nailing them nearly every time now. Once you're used to it, it's very easy, and I think it's because it's a normally aspirated linear engine that goes a long way to helping. And I'm just changing gear for the hell of it. I don't need to change gear, but I like going. Upshift blips work as well. I have really fallen for this car. Question is, what is it going to be like on track? I don't know. I'll have to take it on track to find out. I'm used to a car with a lot more performance than this on track, and it's on track is where you really do get use of that extra performance, because somehow race circuits diminish the performance of a car. You can have a car that is really quite quick. You take it on a race circuit, it doesn't feel fast at all. And I think it's because they're quite wide. And when you're on a very wide road, it makes things feel slower. It's one of the reasons why I like Cadwell Park so much in Lincolnshire. It's a very narrow circuit. It's really better for motorbikes, but taking a car around the twisty, windy hills, blind bends, and there's actually even a jump, it makes it feel much more fun at relatively low speeds, although it is quite a dangerous circuit because there are quite a few trees, and if you get it wrong, well, you don't want to hit a tree. And now I'm going through a village, 30 miles an hour, I'm doing 30, cruise control set to 30, and I'm getting 70.6 miles to the gallon. So that's what I mean, 90 now it says, and this is a flat, I'm not going downhill. So that's what I mean by have your cake and eat it. Price of this car is 30 grand, to be honest, but obviously it's brand new, that will come down. You can get these with this engine, not the special edition, but you can get the 184 PS engine, which I think is my choice of engine in this car. They were released in September 2018. I've seen them down as low as 20 grand, but the prices will obviously come down with time. So it's a very accessible way into a sports car. I've just remembered the thing that annoyed me. I knew there was something else that annoyed me about this car. It's quite petty, and that is the volume for the stereo. You have to press it many, many times to get it to go louder or quieter, or the knob. You're sitting there twisting it, okay, for like 2 seconds, 3 seconds, but I'm used to just being able to go up, down. And it's quite annoying when you want to make it louder to have to go like that 3 times, or if you need it quiet. To be fair, if you want it quiet, you just press the top of the button and that mutes it. It's a little gripe, but if I'm griping about things like that, that says something. And I've just remembered yet the other annoying thing. I knew there was at least a couple. These are awful. These sun visors, they feel very cheap, but they do work. And what I don't like about them, I can forgive them for feeling cheap, but I don't really care. Well, when you consider so much of the rest of the car is such good quality, it's a bit of a letdown. But when you push them back up, make sure you put your fingers on the edge, because yeah, it does close quite hard. It can hurt your fingernails. It traps your fingernails in there when you close them. I've done that about 20 times now. I'm starting to learn when I push it up to put my hand underneath it instead. So you learn your way around it, but at first it's a little annoying. In regard to the pedal and the control weights, the gas pedal is very nice. The brakes are some of the best brakes I have tried in a long time. It's a really nice feel. There's not much of a dead zone at the top, and it's quite a firm pedal as well, which makes it very easy to adjust. The clutch is good. I've had a lot better, but I've also had a lot worse. It's adequate. It's a tiny little bit springy, but it's very easy and usable. The gear stick, lovely throw. When it's warm, it's beautiful. When it's cold, it's a wee bit tough. Handbrake is very easy as well. If you want to take this to Santa Bod and did one of those auto test routes that they do, run what you brung, I'm sure you could do some good little handbrake turns and get the back end going around the cones if you desired to. But for normal use, very easy. It's in a very good place where your arm is nice and strong. Oh, and the steering, of course, very important. It's not too heavy, not too light. Is it like a Lotus? No, but nothing is. It's perfectly good enough, and it's certainly better than your average car. And this is what I mean about convertibles with good heaters. Why it's so good to have a convertible in the UK with a good heater. Today, it's 13 degrees. The sun's decided to come out, yet even though it's only 13 degrees, I'm perfectly comfortable here in a t-shirt. It extends your summers. Even in February, if you've got a sunny day, get the roof down, get the heater on. It's got heated seats, put them on, and it's like a summer's day. It's like, you know, a little mini break to what do they call that place? Fuerteventura or somewhere you can go that's not too far away. It gives you summer conditions in the middle of winter. You get your half an hour drive and you could be in June or July. But I know this is not my usual content. I'm a driving instructor. Normally I'm showing people how to learn to drive, but I thought I'll give you a car review, the odd car review here and there as well. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to get my future videos. Until the next one, cheerio.